equation. Okay, let me tell you what is an equation is. I'm sure you might have heard about algebraic expressions. Now, if you consider two algebraic expressions, a simple expression I'll give you something like, 2x plus 5 is an algebraic expression, yes or no? Now, let's say you have two algebraic expressions and in between them there is a symbol called equality. Let me give you a simple example to understand something like 2x plus 5 is equal to 3x plus 7. So here, your 2x plus 5 is an algebraic expression. 3x plus 7 is also an algebraic expression. Now, these two algebraic expressions are connected by a symbol called equality. A symbol called equality. There's a reason why we call it as an equation. We call it as an equation. So generally, how do you define it? A statement containing two algebraic equations connected by a symbol equality is called an equation. And I'm sure this is something you have already learned in your 8th standard. Yes or no? You've already learned in your 8th standard. So this is what is called an equation is. What is that? Two algebraic expressions connected by a symbol equality is called an equation. Now, our today topic is linear equations in two variables. Linear equation in two variables. Now, what is this linear equation in two variables? Now, before we actually get into linear equation in two variables, let me tell you what is linear equation in one variable is. Let's understand. Just a second. Okay. Okay. Now, what is a linear equation in one variable is? Let's understand that first. Something like, let's take a simple expression, something like 2x plus 5 is equal to 9. Now let's take this equation, 2x plus 5 is equal to 9. Here, now this equation has only one variable which is called x. X here is called a variable which takes value based on the mathematical expressions. You know, what is a variable? A variable, is a quantity which takes the values based on your mathematical expressions. Yeah. So what is this? What exactly is we are talking about is, before we get into the concept of linear equation in two variables, let's recall whatever you have learned in your 8th standard that is called linear equation in one variable. Now, what is linear equation in one variable is? Let's understand that. Let me give you a simple example to make you understand. Check this. Here, if you understand this, check this. We have already discussed what is an equation. An equation is a statement in which two algebraic expressions are equal. So these two are called algebraic expressions and these two algebraic expressions are equal. So how do you define it? An equation is a statement in which two algebraic expressions are equal. Now here, since it contains only one variable, it's called a linear equation in one variable. So it's a linear equation. Now before that, what is linear equation is? An equation in which the degree of the variable is 1. The degree of the variable is 1 is called a linear equation. So always remember, what is a linear equation? An equation in which the degree of the variable is 1 is called a linear equation. So here, clearly you can understand, here you have only one variable x, and here something like 2x plus 3 is equal to 4x plus 3. Here it is containing only one variable with equal variable in between them. That's the reason why we call it a linear equation in one variable. So two things you need to understand here. It contains only one variable and it's a linear equation. Now what do you mean by a linear equation? The degree of the variable is 1. Here clearly the degree of the variable is 1. That's the reason why we call it as a linear equation in one variable. Let me give you another example, something like, check this. Here. Now here if you observe, we're talking about linear equations. An equation involving only linear polynomials is called a linear equation. So linear polynomial means the degree of the variable is 1. Something like, just now we have taken an example, something like 2x plus 5 is equal to 3x plus 9. Or we might take something like, some 3x plus 7 is equal to 4x plus 5. So here, equations in which the degree of the variable is 1, is called a linear equation. So here, this is what is linear equation is. Generally, when you talk about linear equations are of two types. When you talk about linear equations. Linear equations are of two types. One is called linear equation n one variable. The second one is called linear equation n two variables. Linear equation in one variable, linear equation in two variables. So here, linear equations are of two types. At this level, this is what you need to understand. Linear equations are of two types. One is called linear equation in one variable, and the second one is called linear equation in two variable. So here, whatever you have understood here, this is called linear equation in one variable. This is called linear equation in one variable. Now, our topic today is linear equation in two variables. How a linear equation in two variables consists of. Here, let me give you a simple example to make you understand that. Take this. Take this example. What is linear equation in two variables? Clearly, let's say x and y, something like, let's take a simple example. X and y are two variables, right? So if you have an equation, something like 2x plus 3y is equal to 6, or rather 4x minus 7y is equal to 9. Yeah, clearly all these equations contain, these two equations contains two variables x and y. That's the reason why we call it as a linear equation in two variable. Why we call it as a linear equation? Obviously, the degree of these variables is 1. You see that the degree of the variables is 1. Clearly, the degree of the variable is 1, so it's a linear equation. Since you have two variables, x and y, the reason why we call it as a linear equation in two variables. So here, our concept, our chapter, today's chapter, what we'll be discussing is linear equation in two variables. So that's how a linear equation looks like. Now, the generalized form of linear equation. When you talk about a generalized form of linear equation, that's how a generalized form of linear equation looks like. Take this. An equation of the form ax plus by plus c equals 0. An equation of the form ax plus by plus c equals 0, where ABC belongs to real a not equal to 0, b not equal to 0, and x and y are two variables, is called a linear equation in two variables. So here, clearly, when you talk about a generalized form of equation, a linear equation in two variables, a generalized linear equation in two variables looks something like this. It looks something like this. What is that? This of the form ax plus by plus c equal to 0. So that's how a linear equation in two variable looks like. Here, clearly one thing what is saying is your a is not equal to 0, your b is not equal to 0. Now this is important. A equal to 0, b is not equal to 0. So in this equation, why we are saying that a is not equal to 0, b not equal to 0? Here in the equation ax, just a second. In this equation ax plus by plus c equals 0. Let's say if you take a is equal to 0, what will happen? If a is 0, the equation becomes by plus c equals 0. It contains only one variable, so it becomes linear equation in one variable. Same the case when b is 0, what will happen? This equation becomes ax plus c equal to 0. So clearly you have only one variable x. It becomes linear equation in one variable. So it's very important to understand here while defining a linear equation in two variables, the generalized form of the linear equation in two variables is something like this. An equation of the form ax plus by plus c equal to 0, where a comma b comma c belongs to real, a not equal to 0, b not equal to 0. C can be 0 also, something like 2x, it's something like this. 2x plus 3y equals 0. It's an equation. It's an equation. It's a linear equation. The degree of the variable is 1, and it contains two variables, x and y. That's the reason why we call it as a linear equation in two variables. So here, clearly in the definition, here we are saying a not equal to 0, b not equal to 0. A not 0, b not equal to 0. C can be. That's the reason we are not defining anything about C. So how the generalized form of linear equation looks like? A linear equation of the form ax plus by plus c is equal to 0, where your A comma B comma C belongs to real and A not equal to 0, B not equal to 0, and your X comma Y are two variables is called a linear equation in two variables. It's called linear equation in two variables. So here, that's how a linear equation in two variable generalized view looks like. You can take a simple examples, something like, this is a linear equation in one variable. Let me give you a simple example, something like, you can take an example 2x, something like 2x plus 3y is equal to 6, or 3x minus 4y is equal to 7. So here, x and y are two variables. It's in first degree. This is called linear equation in two variables. Also called linear equation in two variables. So you can take a simple example. Don't consider this. Actually, this is a linear equation in one variable. Your variable is x. So when you talk about the examples for your linear equation in two variables, it's something like this. So here, I'm sure it's done.